That's good. We're going to call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call?
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Ocampo?
Here.
Ms. Nathan?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Ocampo?
Here.
Mrs. Garrett?
Present.
Mr. Horace?
Here.
And Ms. Saladin?
Here. Trustee Nathan, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to the agenda. I know that our superintendent has some changes to the order.
Yes, President. I would like to move under discussion, if we could move the student presentation 14B1, that's Mr. Cooby's presentation with the students, and under action, item 15B1, the public hearing approval for naming of the athletic field. If we could move those to be the first two items and then follow the rest of the agenda. So a discussion item, the action item, and then return back to discussion.
Before student of the month.
After student of the month.
After student of the month.
That would be after public comment.
Okay, so after communications.
So public comment is 13.
Oh, I see, 13, got it.
So when we go into discussion, start with 14B1 and then 15B1.
Got it.
Sorry for the
No,
confusion.
no, it's okay. I understand now. All right, can I get a motion to approve with those changes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so report out of closed session. In closed session, with regard to agenda item number 4, the board has the vote to expunge the 2016-2017 expulsion case E10 by a vote of 5-0. That is all I have to report out on closed session. Moving on to recognitions and combinations. Student of the Month, Jefferson High School.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
So, the Jefferson Union High School District Student of the Month program is designed to recognize the many outstanding achievements within the school and in the community of the students in our district. Selected by their teachers and administrators, the Student of the Month exemplifies the degree of academic achievement, leadership, and community consciousness we would like to see in all of our students. Since only 5 of the roughly 4,200 students in our district receive this recognition, being chosen as Student of the Month is quite an honor. Tonight, we will be recognizing the 2019-2020 February Student of the Month. So please, join me in welcoming Samuel Alexander Argueta, a senior at Jefferson High School. Here tonight with Sammy are his parents Jose Meza and Marina Argueta. Sammy joined us from El Salvador, becoming a Grizzly in the fall of 2017. Initially, he was excited to know that Jefferson had a soccer team. However, Sammy was not able to participate in soccer like he wanted because of family obligations. While he spends his off time helping his father, he feels very privileged to be a student at Jefferson High School and is grateful for the educational opportunity that Jefferson has given him. In the 9th grade, Sam enrolled in as an ELD 1 student. During the spring semester of his first year, he earned a PE award, given to him by Ms. Manzel for being a good athlete. Not only that, he earned a certificate of recognition for making honor roll in the spring semester. By his own choosing, Sammy enrolled in summer school to continue his English studies. The following year, he was still in ELD 1, but he worked hard, increasing his GPA to a 3.30, and once again made the honor roll. By his junior year, Sam advanced to ELD 3, earning more recognition for his work and effort. one in ELD3 given by Mr. Featherston, and another award presented by Mr. Gold for U.S. history. Sammy feels grateful and appreciates that the staff at Jefferson has recognized his efforts. Sammy was reclassified fully English proficient for his senior year, which gave him the opportunity to, in his own words, learn more and gain knowledge of this amazing language, even though I am not too good at speaking. On this last point, his teachers all agree that he sells himself short. He is an excellent communicator. After graduation, Sammy plans to attend Skyline College in the fall. As one of his teachers put it, Sammy always helps others, not just when he is asked to, but out of his own volition. The teacher recalled how Sammy helped a fellow student who was struggling with reading a passage out loud. Sammy leaned in close to hear her ear and helped her pronounce the words. Another teacher recalled, "I haven't had Sammy in class for 2 years. Nevertheless, he goes out of his way to smile at me and wish me a good day." When school counselor Miss Paris worked with Sammy to review his Student of the Month questionnaire, she emailed Mr. Bashirs the following: "OMG, can I just tell you I have had a very trying week, and being asked to interview him to get clarifying questions was so much fun and has made my week wonderful. I forgot all the bad. So happy to have helped. He is a beautiful soul in this kid." It is the combination of hard work, positivity, and compassion that makes Sammy a model Grizzly. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2019-2020 Jefferson Union High School District February Student of the Month, Samuel Alexander Argueta.
No, do we have his award?
We have her.
Okay.
Sammy, your mom too? Is your mom with? Okay. Might want to ask if his mom is able. You want to ask mom or Sammy if they have a cell phone that you can also take pictures from.
Thank you.
So it is always a pleasure to start our meetings, hearing stories of success like that. Getting reclassified is not an easy task, and also keeping that grade point average in a language that's different than the one that you were born with is an amazing feat. So congratulations to both you and your parents. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to communications, board report. We'll start with Trustee Ocampo.
All right, so backtracking to the last week of January, Jefferson High School had their Winter Rally Week and Spirit Week as well. There were a lot of LTAs, and it was centered around the theme of juniors and freshmen versus sophomores and seniors, or Team J-Fresh and Saucy. The LTAs are fun as they pitted each team against each other, and by the end of the Spirit Week, whoever had the most points had bragging rights, of course. And by Friday was our Winter Rally. The sides were, so one side was Disney versus Pixar. I dressed up as Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story with my friend Calvin over there as Woody. The rally was really fun. A lot of cheering, a lot of events going on. It was really nice. It showed and the good teamwork from each team as well. Moving on. Last week was just Miss Infusion's 20th anniversary, Pandora. It was a really good show. They performed Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Really nice. It seemed its theme was centered around connecting all the shows together and sort of looking back at the past. And again, looking towards the future, what's next to come. And finally, the seniors today had their panoramic photo at Jefferson. That was really nice. I mean, I didn't realize we had so many seniors at Jefferson. And it was really nice and went a lot faster than we expected to. Yeah.
All right, Trustee Nathan?
Okay, so at Westmore we had our IFD event, which is International Foods Day, and we had that last Friday, which was a great outcome because a lot of people were able to fund for their clubs, and I also was able to get a chicken bake, so that was fun on Friday. And our health play is coming up, and this is basically where some of our people in our theater department go to like middle schools and do a little skit and show them what high school life is actually all about. And coming up Friday, our principal gave us an idea to have a plank signing, so all the green hats are able to sign the plank. That will be going into the new building on our campus. And we're gonna have our annual quad game against Jeff. That will be like our last one, which is gonna be a really big outcome. And FBLA is having their Mental Health Awareness Week. And also, a while back, we had letters to counselors, and we also had some visits from Vietnam vets, which is really cool because you're literally talking to history, so I'm like, oh my god, you're here. So yeah, that was really cool. And Westmore is also having their annual pop concert, which is coming up on Thursday.
Lots of stuff over the past week. I know we'll all probably hit on it real briefly, but the groundbreaking for our faculty and staff housing project last Wednesday, an incredible milestone for us as a district, and just really proud of the work that our team has put in to make this happen. And and with our intrepid Mr. Campo as the master of ceremonies last week, so thank you for the fine job you did hosting the event.
Yeah, of course.
And then there was the JUHSD Equity Network on Thursday night, then the San Mateo County School Board Association all-day equity network on Friday and Saturday morning. Powerful discussions with our various board colleagues from throughout the county. So really just, and as well as the JEC cabinet from our district, really some healthy conversations. I think it was really nice to see how open people were to talk about just some of the issues with regards to the way they view themselves in relation to governance and equity governance. And finally, I attended the Terra Nova Education Foundation fundraiser on Friday night. Fantastic event. Really wonderful to see all the parents in our community come out to support the foundation, and some wonderful words from both TNF and from Ms. Terry as well. So.
Yeah, I felt like this week's been a very busy week. We had the groundbreaking, and it was good to see so many people from around the community. It was a little bit earlier in the business day, so not everybody could, of course, make it. But as a community event, something that we're sharing and building together, it means a lot. And I think that internally it means a lot because we can see that in our community, and our ability to build this was echoed by a lot of the other public officials' offices and representatives who were able to be here to acknowledge and honor that, because it's difficult to do this kind of thing, building affordable housing and public housing in anywhere in California, really. But like to see that in the Bay Area is a feat to be acknowledged in, and something that I think that I would look forward to seeing, not just in the Bay Area, but nationwide, since we've set a trend, I think, in some ways. So that was really empowering to see that, and people to see that too. That and the work with the Equity Network at Westmore, the district meeting there, that was really good, because going to Westmore, talking about equity in the library, where I took, years, but like tests and different things that have everything to do with what we want to see for our students, the opportunities we want to provide, and the conversations we need to have in order to move that forward. So in terms of advancing those conversations, it's good to see people, I know in the room today, in the office, people who weren't able to make it, but that those decisions, those conversations will be able to move forward and create some change, I think, that we're already making and moving forward at a good pace. The one thing I wasn't able to attend Mission Fusion, but I did see Drop Dead Juliet. the Romeo and Juliet play at Terra Nova, which was really innovative, and it was refreshing because it was like 2 plays in 1. They went at a record pace. So if anybody got a chance to see that, or not, I'm not sure if there's a DVD for that, but something that could boost the drama department sales, I'm sure. But anyways, a very busy week and a good start to the semester. So
I will add on to what Trustee Lee and Trustee Ochmente had to say. So I also went to all of those events that they were at. I also want to give another shout out to Mr. Ocampo for doing such a great job. I'm seeing the whole ceremony, and I am proud to sit on the board that is progressive and wants to do what's best for our teachers and staff in our community. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud to sit here today with my board and my community to be progressive and keep moving forward and do what's best for our community. So I also went to, I did go to Mission Fusion, and I want to congratulate Ms. Missel for a wonderful production. And I don't know how all those students were up there for so long dancing all those songs, to all those songs, and you know, just the feel, it's just such a, I felt such a community in there. Everybody was so just so heartwarming and cheered for everybody, and it was just really nice to see. So I thank Ms. Benzel for honing that environment and inspiring the kids to be the best that they can be and do great things out there. So I also want to take time to, I went to the Terra Nova Career Fair. I went to a lot of things this last week. Went to the Career Fair last week, so I want to congratulate the counselors for doing such a wonderful job and organizing that. There was so many community members and partners out there talking to students about all the opportunities they have after they are graduating from high school. So I'm sure next year will be bigger and better than ever. So again, congratulations to them for doing a wonderful job. I also went to Masters of Governance last week as well. It was like a full-time job last week. So just getting myself educated on becoming a better board member. So I think that's quite a lot of things. So I will give it to Ms. Tejada over here.
Well, I think we all breathed a collective sigh when the groundbreaking actually happened, and it was really touching, and it was wonderful to have Mr. Ocampo be the MC. And if you didn't catch it, he was interviewed by Cron 4 News as well. But I love seeing this full room here. And I'm looking forward to student presentations. I spend most of my time as, the last few weeks as being a mom and a daughter. So that was my few weeks.
I did a lot. So there's a lot going on, so I'm going to move it on. Superintendent report.
So I have a long list.
Okay.
So sorry. First of all, I'd like everyone to look behind you. We have artwork from Jefferson High School up there. I love that we always try to bring students into everything we do because that's what we're all about, our students. So I really appreciate that. Yes, the San Mateo CSBA Equity Network on Friday and Saturday had a profound effect on me personally. And when Toby presented on Saturday, I think all of us were really moved by the content such that I reached out to her, and she's going to come and work with our administrators for the first day of our admin retreat. I think that's a good first step, so really love that. The groundbreaking, there were several times where I just wanted to, I had tears, I had to like wipe tears away. And when you're going to talk about welcome home, you have to warn me about those things, so I have tissue. Listening to, of course, Mr. Ocampo was wonderful, as was Mr. Murphy. I mean, his speech really moved many people in the room. And I can say with perspective, I've been to many, many, many groundbreakings. And that, by far, was the top experience of my life. It was memorable. We had people from the federal level all the way down to the county level who were all now sending me friend requests on Facebook. But it was just so good to see so many people there supporting the work that we're doing. So really proud of that. Mission Fusion was awesome. And I think what Ms. Garrett was saying, the students in the crowd are cheering on the students as they're performing.
Yes.
And it just gets the kids going. It was, because the Dewey was here this past weekend, so part of that, my husband, so part of that was going to Mission Fusion Saturday night. And there we are, front and center, watching all that. It was incredible. And as we speak, Heike is gathering the laundry, and I'm going to help her with because all those costumes have to be, they recycle them, so we got to get them all washed and dry cleaned and things like that. I want to remind the board that this Friday at Westmore on Valentine's Day at 12:30, if you can sneak away, there's the beam signing that Ms. Nathan was talking about. So your signature and comment will be there for decades and decades. If you want to get there, that's at 12:30. On Thursday, we have our annual Jefferson Council PTA Founders Day event that starts at 6 o'clock. So if you want to go to that, that's happening. I don't know. Can I just say I'm just really proud to be in a district that's so student-focused and focused on equity. I'm just really proud of the work that we're doing there. So thank you.
AFT Local 1481.
Hello.
Hello.
I just have a couple of things. The first thing is congratulations to all of us on our housing for faculty, staff. I want to just make sure that we say and staff, because a lot of the news programs, they're they say teachers, and then even though we talk about it and staff, they don't put that on there. So I just want to make sure we know that, because we have a lot of people in our district that are interested. So they're very excited to hear what's going to happen next with the housing board and how that's going to go. So people are like really, really ready for this. So something when I hear you talk about the things you've been going to, or you've been visiting, or you have another meeting coming up, I want to remind people that we're collecting signatures for Schools and Communities First, a ballot initiative that will help schools and communities by funding us with tax money that people like Chevron and Disney are not paying their fair taxes. They're paying their 1970s taxes. They've been able to get loopholes so that they don't have to pay their fair share. So we're all paying our fair share, but they're not. So, and of course I have petitions in the office. I didn't bring them into the room, but I will go get them at the end. So if people can take a couple to the activities that you go to and get signatures, that would be wonderful. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is when we come back from break, February 25th, the CFT is having a lobby day up in Sacramento. And a few of our members are going to be attending that and speaking to legislatures and describing what we're going through. And we need more funding, we need better funding, we need continuous funding, we need to be able to pay our people a living wage. And of course the housing will help with that, but it's not going to help everybody. So we need to do more. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there are any changes or anyone wants to pull anything, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve consent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to public comment, do we have a card?
Yes, we have 2 food cards today. First, I would like to call Peter Renard.
Perfect segue. I have some I wanted to share with you guys tonight, because I'm going to be one of the staff members going to Sacramento for the lobby day. And with Schools and Communities First, one of the things I'd like to ask you to do is imagine, what if it actually gets on the ballot, and what if it actually is successful? What if we actually get the $7 to $12 billion a year into education and local communities in California? Where would the money go? How would it be used? And it being used well and efficiently requires that we all have a common understanding of what the fundamental issue is in education. And so I'm going to say something that you've all heard from me before, and that's the fundamental issue for teachers is one for time. And so I have a little flyer that I've been working on that I'm going to be sharing with legislators up in Sacramento, and I've been sharing with teachers and everybody to try and help everybody understand, have the facts that kind of lead you to that conclusion, and that point to the fact that we, compared to like other countries, like you hear a lot about Finland, but also Singapore, and countries that are doing amazing things in education. Some of the comparisons are, we, as opposed to teachers in America, where we teach in front of kids, we're in front of the kids 5.5 hours a day. In Singapore, it's about 3.5 hours a day. And when you think about what that means, it means that for every minute I spend with a student, or a group of students, I have less than a minute outside of that to plan, reflect, collaborate, and do all the rest. Because of the amount of time we're working, teachers in the United States, on average, compared to the other, it's called the OECD countries, we work on average 450 hours more per year, but without getting the same outcomes, without getting the same level of job satisfaction. 55% of teachers who leave the profession do so because of dissatisfaction and frustration with the job. Compared to other degree professionals, bachelor degree professionals, we make 65%, or 65 cents to the dollar. Statistics I'm sure you've all heard before. So at the end of the day, I just want to reinforce the message: when teachers spend the majority of their workday planning, grading, and collaborating, kids will learn more. And I wanted to share this with you guys so you have that. Oh, and there's a bunch of graphs on the back that I compiled too. One of them has a particularly disturbing statistic that I think we all need to get ahead of, which is the one that compared to 18 years ago, when there was more than 75,000 people in teacher preparation programs in California, we're now at about 20. Yeah, so we need to be ahead.
Thank you. The other card is on an agenda item?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. All right, moving on to discussion items, we're going to move on to 14B1, the presentation from Jefferson High School, Dr. Deloria.
So tonight we have Mr. Cooby. As you know, he teaches government classes, and he's here tonight with students, and he's going to share information about some recent presentations that they did on really important educational issues. So I'll turn it over to Adam.
So I have some students with me, so I'm going to bring them up. You guys want to come up here and sit at your stations? You might have some questions. So, good evening. My name is Mr. Cooby. I teach at Jefferson High School. I teach 12th grade government and economics. So, in the fall, I teach government because that is campaign season, government season, and whatnot. So, we first started this year doing some Project Soapbox speeches, which each student picks a topic that they would like to give a speech on in front of the rest of their classmates, which is an issue that they feel is important to them and their community. So if you see up on the slideshow, they first will assess the community. They will then decide a problem that they want to address, and they will give a speech on that topic, which some of our school board members and our superintendent came and watched some of the speeches. So every one of them gave a speech, and I teach about 150 students, and giving a 2 to 3 minute speech in front of their classmates would be more than I would have done as a high school level. And almost 99 to 100% of the students gave speeches. I only had a couple students who did not give their speech. Some students gave their speech just to 5 students, but then most of them gave their speeches to the classes. So then from there, we choose one issue, so the class votes on an issue, and we do a Generation Citizen project on that. So the next slide shows the project portion of it. So each class chooses a topic to do for their project. So my first period class, which was Jose and Zach, they decided to do climate change and the migration crisis due to global warming. So they brought in a UC Berkeley grad student who spoke to them about global climate change and migration crisis due to that, and they assessed the causes and root causes and symptoms of that project, that topic. Then my second period class chose gun violence and gun control, and they did their project looking at causes of gun violence and solutions around gun control. My fourth period class, which had John Ocampo on it, they'll talk a little bit about school funding and housing. So they chose something that was very relevant to what you've talked about today, which is school funding and housing crises with teachers and students. My fifth period class, which includes Calvin, they chose educational methods in project-based learning and Common Core aligned lessons. And then my sixth period class chose housing and rent prices. So each of them chose that. They brought in guest speakers, they analyzed it, and it really aligns to the C3 framework for the social studies standards, which really looks at content, then analysis and critical thinking, and then the last thing, which is the hard part, is the taking action and really application-based stuff. So I used both curriculums, which is one is called Generation Citizen, which is the curriculum to do action civics, and then the other one is Issues to Action and Project Soapbox, which really gets them to do the speeches and public speaking. So from there, the next slide, they went to a civics fair where they presented their project. So out of the four of you, which one, who went to civics fair? Okay, so three of them went to civics fair to represent their classes. So you've seen the pictures there. Groups of students from each class went to civics fair to present to judges, community members, community leaders, civic leaders, elected officials. School board members from around the Bay Area were there too, to hear their projects and give them feedback on what to do next with it. And they had to present their projects and get judged and answer questions about the project. But the next steps for this Action Civics is, the next slide, is real life campaigning. So we talked about school funding and getting out there and supporting the initiative. So Calvin here, I've only had a couple events because the campaign season really hasn't kicked off. So Calvin went to campaign for Elizabeth Warren, and he was going door knocking, door to door, trying to get people to register to vote, but then also to vote for Elizabeth Warren. Another student, Darren, he showed up at that event, but he also has campaigned for Andrew Yang, and we're going to be campaigning for everybody from up and down the ticket. So that's real life campaigning. Hopefully, this is something that I'm trying to get in front of the board to do. The next slide is to take them to meet the candidates. So the organization that I do a lot of my civic stuff on took students to Iowa this year to go to the caucuses. I'm hopefully maybe bringing students to Nevada. It's still in the planning stages for the caucuses, but we're March 3rd, so we're like 5th on the ballot. So everybody's going to be campaigning here. So I'm going to get all of them to be working on the campaigns, hopefully meeting candidates, getting people to register to vote, and work on the election. So all of this stuff here and any questions you have around Action Civics really gets the kids to do that level, that highest level learning, which is not just content knowledge and memorization and analysis, but actually really applying the skills that they're learning to different issues in their community. So I'm going to turn it over to them. They didn't know that they were speaking, by the way, but they thought they were just going to be in the back and standing next to the poster answering questions from people that walked by, like they did at the Civics Day. But I know that these four grade students can answer any questions about their projects or the process that went into them. So thank you for listening to the presentation about the projects, and I hope they look forward to answering your questions.
Do they have any comments about, I mean, I'd love to hear what
Okay.
John and his colleagues say about your course.
Yeah, so with the project, what challenge, the soapbox challenge?
All of it,
Yeah,
right?
all of it, yeah. So starting with the soapbox, our public speeches, it was really interesting what our peers had to say about what topics they wanted to look at, what they thought was important. And then, giving its speech itself, the amount of research, the amount of time and effort it goes through, it's really nice to see what people want to talk about in their community. And then we narrowed it down to our Generation Citizen project, which talked about each class had their core issue. There were several groups in each class, a group focused on budget, a group focused on the data itself, a group focused on the effects, another group focused on the causes, and it really just split up the work to get as much as we can covered. We then took it all together, and these poster boards are really the product of what we've done.
So did the
And-
whole class make a poster board?
Yeah, so one
Wow.
class per poster board. Yeah.
Wow.
And each class,
Usually it's 2 or 3 kids, so that's quite a coordinated effort.
yeah, and each poster board, again, focuses on different subjects ranging from school funding to housing to gun violence. And it just shows a lot of options that we can go from there. Yeah.
So who decided who they were going to campaign for? Or did you like, okay, you're going to go campaign for Andrew Yang, or you're going to go campaign, or like, did you say, okay, I really feel passionate about Elizabeth Warren, so I'm going to campaign for them?
Mr. Cooby actually gives us the dates to where each candidate will canvass or have a table. So it's our choice, but for me, I just wanted to canvass just to experience it, and I want to canvass for every single candidate because I'm going to be a voting age for this upcoming election, so I want to see which candidate fits my ideals the best. So yeah.
So I think that a lot of the project's focused on things that you guys are very, very interested in. I know the school funding issue is going to come on, and hopefully the students get involved in that initiative. Same thing with the housing. I know that John has worked on that and been a part of that, but I think that all the students, whether they're AP students, regular students, students that are struggling, can get involved in this. And I really see that students, whether it's the speech or the project, they jump on board with it. They know it's a class project. There's kind of the class mentality that we all got to get on the ship. We all got to be a part of this. So as John said, they kind of break up the projects. They get to choose which part of the project that they want to work on, and I always have them do some skill analysis. Are they a data person? Are they an interviewing person? So somebody had to go interview other students. Are they somebody who can look up technology and test technology? Can they? One of the groups was looking at recycling bins. Can we count recycling bins in the school and then assess where they are and if are people using them correctly? So I think that it really makes students work together and they all know that they have a skill set and they have something to contribute to the project. What I want to say is Jose, he translated for our Generation Citizen project at the Action Civics Fair. So we had two students who are native Spanish speakers, and their English proficiency is really, they're trying to improve on that. So they tried to do their best to speak in English to the people, but Jose stepped up right away and says, okay, I'm going to help translate for them. So they would speak in Spanish and he would jump right in. So I think that a lot of students really, they jump into these projects and they know that whatever is needed of them, that they will do their best to help push the ball forward.
Fantastic. For any of you young men, was there any particular part of the process that you really enjoyed as part of this project? I mean, was there something that jumped out at you in terms of the work you did?
Yeah, actually going to the Action Civics event where we saw other Generation Citizen projects really opened my eyes personally to see how many people just focus on different issues, and seeing different poster boards of just of other subjects that are a lot to look at. It really just shows that a lot of people care for a lot of things in this community, and it opened my eyes to realize that there's a lot going on in this community that we can do to help.
Do you guys?
Okay. And I think pretty much, like us as students, having the chance and being some sort of, trying to tackle these issues, there's some sort of big issues, controversial. I think it's good for us because it helps us, it prepares us, for real life. Collaboratively working with other students, it's, something me as myself, I really found joyful and, I found it good.
Calvin already texted a picture of you to your mom. But what did you find anything really challenging that you had to really work hard at? I mean, to get your project done, or views that you didn't agree with but you had to deal with?
Looking at,
For my group, I was in charge of the data group, and I think gathering all the data was the hardest because at first we just sent emails to all the teachers and asked them to take the survey, but most of them didn't take. A lot of them didn't take it, so I had to go, and my group mates had to go door to door asking the teachers for their surveys, which was fun, but then it was a little bit of a setback for our plan to get all the data done.
I'll give you one story. So Jose's and Zach's class, they were calling the recycling department from Daly City, and they didn't plan their phone call before they made it. So they called and they didn't think they were going to get somebody. They thought maybe just leave a message, and they got somebody and they hung up. And I'm like, why'd you hang up? And they're like, I don't know what to say. And I was like, how would you think through your conversation before you call someone? So I think that was one of the skill sets. Is I made a lot of them call elected officials or call. One of the other ones is calling a real estate company. So they had to call somebody, and that for some of them, they're just so used to texting or emailing, and even an email sometimes is something that they have to learn how to do. So they actually asked me how to do these skills, and so then we had to go through them. How do you write a formal email? How do you make a formal phone call to somebody? So I really felt like they hit some difficulties. I remember when they hung up, there was another group, and I was like, you know, I've never made a phone call to somebody before that's important. And I was like, okay, we need to practice that. So they all practiced their phone calling before they made those next phone calls.
It's real life skills. And,
right.
You know, I've worked in the legal profession for over 20 years, and one time I had an attorney who he graduated from West Point. He went to Yale Law, and he was scared to death his first day of work. And I said, do you have any questions for him? He said, how do I answer my phone? How do I say my name? And I just made a suggestion, and and so it's at every level. This is great life experience for you. And I certainly, when I went to Jeff, it was all just textbook stuff. We didn't leave the classroom. This is really, really amazing.
Any other comments, questions? Trustee Chikoti?
Yeah, I was in, you're all seniors, yeah?
Yeah.
This is a presidential election year. I'm sure this is all in your minds, right? Imagine most of you will be able to vote, statistically speaking, right? Usually it's that way. So this is an amazing experience. We don't all have the opportunity to vote our senior year or our freshman year maybe of college, or the first year out of high school, right? So there's a lot of responsibility taking on issues like this, right? And, yeah, just to a lot of the program and your advising here, getting involved with civic engagement projects like this, I wouldn't say it's a rare opportunity, but it's a unique opportunity because it's not offered all the time and it takes extra work. So putting it together and being a part of that is something to be acknowledged. We have like junior states in America and different things. I think that since I've been in high school, I've seen a lot more come up. So what is your experience getting involved in this with your experience in extracurricular activities at school? Do you feel like this overlaps into student government? Certainly some of us are student trustees, right? Does it overlap into the work you might do with clubs, or how are you maybe having conversations with your friends who are like, oh, what is that, and how do I get involved?
Well, these events, we usually get an early heads up of when this is happening. So this allows us to communicate with our clubs or any other activities we have, sort them out, and to make sure that they know what's happening with us. When friends are asking about this, I would always explain to them about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then how interesting and sort of a unique experience it is to get this opportunity to present these boards to people who want to learn about what we think is going on in our community. Yeah.
If you go back to 2 slides, David Canova came in and presented to them, one more slide back, about gun violence, and he chose, and then some of the kids asked him, well, what have you done around gun violence as our mayor and working in the San Mateo? And he had to call his campaign office to ask a couple questions about the Cow Palace and the gun shows and other things. So it kind of put him on not blast, but put him like, hey, you got to answer to your voters, right? And he also said, I don't know the answer to that, I'll get back to you on that, and he did. Another one was the bottom picture is somebody who works, I think, at Jackie Spears' office, and so he was answering about housing and about what's going on in Daly City around providing affordable housing and how housing gets approved and not approved. So he also was providing some information for them, which elected officials have to answer. But then he also encouraged them to go to school board meetings, or not school board meetings, city meetings to talk about the housing crisis in Daly City. So hopefully they take this experience and then go do more of it coming in the next election, not just presidential, but all the way down to local, which if you guys are interested in getting them to help you guys out as far as getting your message out to the community, that's the next step.
Yes, amazing opportunity. Thank you for clarifying that. And those are good opportunities, not just to like hold elected officials accountable, but also like we have, Supervisor Camp has done some work around gun violence, right? So we can speak to that. The other thing being is the work you're doing here, it may or may not be in student government. You may want to be, involved in the electoral politics realm after high school. You may not, but I would encourage you to do so. And of course, when you get to college or wherever you're doing work, get involved. A lot of the strongest voices are those who aren't always thought about or seen publicly, but can make those decisions and those issues move forward. And so when you see that after high school, know that lobbying and electoral politics are strong points to get involved with, but there's so much community organizing and activism that your generation is definitely pioneering and putting out there. Yeah, don't be afraid to speak up and push those issues forward. So, right on.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Cooby, and coming out here and teaching our students to think outside the box and teaching them civil engagement and know that they have a voice in our community. So thank you so much. I do appreciate that very much.
Yes, thank you.
So we have the boards here. We're not leaving right after the meeting because we're most likely going back into closed session. So we'll take time to look at it, but I want to keep the meeting going. But I do want to say that, civics and civic participation is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And where I learned to be civically engaged was in high school. I had a fantastic high school teacher in the high school program. And I remember my high school teacher telling me, you should run for political office when I was in high school, and I laughed at him, and then, he had the last laugh. But I remember getting that fire and passion about civic engagement in high school. So, Mr. Cooby, I just want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. Being relatively new to the district, to see you jump in with both feet like this and get this program started for us, I cannot thank you enough. And also to the students for coming here after school. It's late. We don't have to be home. So, yeah. Thank you so much for coming out, and especially stressing the involvement. Everybody looks at presidential elections, but right now, especially for folks your age and even my age, we are much more affected by local. So your city council, your state senator, your state assembly member. So I'm happy to hear that there's involvement both locally and higher up. And so I'm excited to see what you guys do moving forward. I'm excited to see you at future meetings. I know we have future meetings coming up with some of our local representatives as a board, so having you guys join us so that it's just not our voice, but also the voice of the actual people that we are here to serve, students. So really empowering student voice is very important to me, so thank you all for stepping up, and thank you for coming out here tonight.
And keep inviting us into the classroom.
Yes, please. It's been great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to item 15B1, which is a public hearing and approval of naming the athletic field at Terra Nova High School. So first I want to say that there's a lot of folks here and we only have one card on this topic. So if anyone wants to speak to this, you can pull a blue card and fill it out, and then we'll go ahead and let those folks in. Secondly, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. We have the card.
No,
You want Tina to introduce the item?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tina. Sorry.
Thank you. Good evening, President Salahuddin and trustees. JUHSD policy allows the governing board to name district grounds and facilities in recognition of individuals that have made outstanding contributions to the school community. Coach Bob Lottie's contributions to JUHSD and the Terra Nova community have made a lasting impact. Coach Lottie's commitment to the Terra Nova football program spanned 24 years, from 1974 to 1998. During his time as head coach, the Terra Nova football team won 5 North Peninsula League titles, and in 1982 they won their first ever CCS championship. Coach Lottie was also named the North Peninsula Coach of the Year 4 times during his time at TN. For all of these reasons, and for those represented by our community members and former athletes in the audience tonight, it's recommended that Coach Lottie be honored by changing the name of Terra Nova High School Athletic Field to Coach Bob Lottie Field. I would now like to invite our Director of Student Services, Doreen Beswina, to provide some additional comments.
Well, you people always hear from me, so I'm sending up 3 of my 4 or 5 siblings.
Oh, great. I'm going first anyways.
Here, talking to that.
Good evening, President Saludine and board members. I am Mary Blanchard. I am one of Bob Lottie's 6 children. I'm his favorite.
Didn't have to claim it.
We're proud to have this moment to give you a little history of our dad and his contributions and his commitment to Jefferson Union High School District and to Terra Nova High School. Dad graduated from Sarah High School in 1955. He was inducted into the Sarah High School Hall of Fame in 1994 for his outstanding participation in football, basketball, and baseball, always sports. To this day, he holds some records at Sarah High School. First of which is most fumbles recovered in a career, and that is still held since 1952, 53, and 54. Most fumbles recovered in a season, which was 10, and that was in 1954. And most fumbles recovered in a game, which was 3 versus Marin Catholic in 1954. Who says defense doesn't win games? Dad went on to attend the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, where he played football and baseball. He graduated in 1960 with a Baccalaureate of Science in Physical Education. He returned home and 2 months later married the woman of his dreams, our mom, Nancy Lee Mullaney.
Thanks, Mary. I'm Vince Lodi, number 4. When Dad returned to the Bay Area, he taught at Sarah High School from 1960 to 1962. In the fall of 1962, he was hired by Jefferson Union High School District to teach at Westmore High School till 1974. He taught PE and was the assistant varsity football coach under Pete Matese for many years. He also spent 4 years as the head track coach, sending many kids to both the Central Section and state finals. In the fall of 1974, Dad transferred to Terra Nova High School to take over the varsity head football coaching position. During his time as head coach, Terra Nova football won 5 Peninsula League titles, their first Central Coast Section championship in 1982, and was named the North Peninsula Coach of the Year 4 times. 10 of his student athletes received football scholarships, including one of his own sons, his favorite son, who received a football scholarship to the Harvard of the West, the University of Arizona. As a coach, Dad had a tremendous impact on his athletes. Rear Admiral of the Navy, Bill Byrne, a 1982 Terra Nova graduate and quarterback, was quoted in the Monterey County Herald. Those Terra Nova football teams were family. We were all brothers. Every time we took the field, we were absolutely, positively, 100% certain that we would win. Coach Bob Lottie had instilled that confidence in us, and we developed that same confidence in one another. No one was going to let their brother down. That confidence, that feeling of brotherhood, putting the team before yourself, those lessons of leadership and discipline that were instilled in us as Terra Nova Tigers, they've served me well over the past 33 years. Another quote from Russ Stanley, Senior Vice President of Tickets and Sales for the San Francisco Giants, in a letter to the board, the Jefferson Union board, to Andy Lee, stated, Coach came to me in his PE class one day and asked if I would keep stats for the team in 1980. I did it for 3 seasons. I was embraced by the team and began what turned into a career. In 1989, just out of college, I started working for the San Francisco Giants. I am now Senior Vice President of Tickets and Services. I consider that part-time job, keeping stats for the football team, as the start of my career. Coach Lottie was able to bring the best out of his players. Even those with little or no talent thrived in his environment. As tough an exterior that the coach had, he truly cared about his players. Ask any of his former players what coach means to them. They will likely tear up. He impacted so many of us in meaningful ways. He made us all better players and even better men. Good evening, I'm Bob Lodi II. Good enough to get his name. Sorry. Dad had an amazing talent for giving motivational speeches. They led to many, many victories. If you have some time, ask him about Mount Saravachi or the Junkyard Dogs. He had stat sheets that he would do by hand every Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and they'd be ready for the students to look at and those players to look at on Monday morning. Our childhood memory of Friday nights in the fall was going to a football game, followed by most of the coaches from the Peninsula Athletic League showing up at our house, and rival coaches to boot, talking about the games they just played and the games they were going to play against each other the following Friday. After the 1982 CCS championship, Dad and his assistant and good friend Bob Guerrero both stepped down from coaching varsity and took over the Frosh soft football. They would coach together until Dad's retirement in 1998. During his time at Terra Nova, Dad was an assistant track coach, an attendance supervisor, picked on me a few times, I can tell you that, and athletic director for 13 years. This will make you cringe. Every so often he would climb the 40-foot light poles to change the bulbs out just to make sure that they were working. I'm not kidding you. Lots of prayers, yeah, don't tell Mom. He managed to find an old cargo container and hoisted it up to be the press box at Terra Nova for many, many years. He was a wrestling official for 25 years and was the head referee for the first ever wrestling state championships held in Davis. In 1992, Dad was inducted into the Pacifica Hall of Fame. There's been a lot of either teaching, working, or coaching at Terra Nova since 1974. They coach volleyball, basketball, badminton, football, golf, softball, and it's all there. We're very fortunate to have Bob Lodi as our dad. Where is he? There he is. We need him. Thank you for taking your time to consider this this honor for our family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all for the presentation? So we have one card.
We do, and we have, would like to call up Mr. Horace Hinshaw.
Thank you, Horace Hinshaw, and I'll just represent myself as Pacifica Tribune tonight because I've been covering Terra Nova football for over 50 years now. And Bob Lodi brought a foundation to Terra Nova in 1974 that had not prevailed in those previous years. Terra Nova has a winning foundation today, and it goes back only because he started this winning combination back in the late 70s, and it's going forward today. I want to thank the board for considering this, but I also want to thank these guys back here, the football players who brought this forward to you, because these guys actually were in the trenches with Coach Lodi, and they know what he gave to the school and what he gave to the parents as well. So it's well deserved, and I can hardly wait to see that Bob Lodi Field, engraved on that end zone. And I hope that we are able to do that this coming year, because I think it's really important to get out front and do it. Along with the stadium being named after Coach Bill Gray and the addition to the Coach Lodi here, we've come a long ways. And those two gentlemen have really been Terra Nova, and so they really need to be set up on a pedestal so high. So I applaud that, and I just hope that we can just go forward and make that happen this year. Thank you.
Would it be inappropriate if no one asked me to speak, if I said something?
That's fine, and then you can fill out a blue card after you're done.
I don't hear that well, excuse me?
That's fine, and then after you're done, you just fill out a blue card, so come on up now, right? Yeah.
Go ahead and talk, Will. I'm gonna try and get through this.
Yeah.
Will Kilboyd, product of Terra Nova, and was coached by Coach Lodi. I had no interest playing football in high school. I wanted to play soccer. I loved to play soccer. I did go out for track, and I was a freshman. And Coach Lodi came and sat beside me and shared some sunflower seeds, and I was learning how to pole vault. I will get through this. I really want to share this. So he told me if I pole vaulted over 10 feet, he would rewrap my pole with tape. Sounds cheesy, and 10 feet is not really high, you know. And I never went over 10 feet. I flew over 10 feet, and he put tape on my pole. And then he asked me if I wanted to try on some shoulder pads and play football. I said I wasn't interested, you know. And so he took me inside, and he tried on shoulder pads, so they fit real well. And he said, you're going to play football. And so I worked my whole life with my father. I come from a big family. I love my father. My father lived through the Depression. I worked my whole life with my father. I'm not here to, but my father never told me he loved me, never gave me a hug. And I'm okay with that, because there's a point in my life that I was able to realize that he showed me in other ways. I mean, the way he shared a chocolate bar with me, the way he touched me, I chose to accept that. I started playing football for Coach, and it just didn't end there. He wanted to see my report card. Coach wasn't a scared straight kind of guy, didn't give speeches. It was kind of interesting. He just took an interest. So, there's something super powerful for me. In high school, there was a little detachment between my father and I. It was a real competitive relationship. I worked with him after school, and he didn't want me to play sports. And I love playing sports. Never came to any of my games. My dad did not like me. My dad loved me. But Coach knew that I had some other skills because I worked in a machine shop. And so he recruited me to work on his log splitter and his lawnmower. but listen, it didn't end there. It's the type of thing as, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? So he wanted to make some weight equipment in the weight room and asked me, so he got all the materials together, and we'd start building all this weight equipment. And he picked me up on the weekends, and you cannot believe how this made me feel. My father couldn't tell me, you did a good job, that's nice, but like I said, I came to realize differently, but he just couldn't do it. And so I'm here to tell you that a very interesting time in my life, I had someone that took an interest in me and helped me understand how to communicate differently with my father, to be less competitive with him. It pretty much ended everything. And it goes on from there. He helped me understand my own self-worth, and I really mean that. I'm not sure I knew what I could do or what I was capable of. And all he did is got the material, he goes, it's like the absent-minded professor, you know? And I love this guy. He means the world to me. I'm happy the field's being named after him. Thank you.
So we just want to make sure your name is in the record, because for the minutes, yeah, Candace is going to give you a blue card so we can make sure that your name is in there, because that was a nice testimony. Any other speakers? No? Okay, I'm going to close the open hearing and toss it over to board members for any comments.
Just thank you so much for being here tonight and for sharing your stories of your family. You know, in my years in the district, I've come to know Doreen quite well, and so it's fun to see a part of her that I didn't know. You know, I've heard the stories, you know, but to have...
haven't heard all of them.
Oh, I know, I've heard, right, exactly. But you know, but for this piece, it's actually quite wonderful to hear actually, you know, the impact that your father made in our community. And I think it's a powerful, powerful testimony, powerful stories that are being shared. and shared with us tonight. So thank you so much. It's going to be a wonderful honor.
Coach Lodi, I went to Jefferson in the late 70s and I graduated in 81. So you were like, we wanted to beat you so bad, but we respected you. You were the man. You were the amazing. And Mary, you and I worked together as after-school park and rec counselors in San Bruno. And I just remembered, I mean, I was athletic, but I wasn't a Mary Lodi. And I was like, oh my God, it's Mary Lodi. I'm with Mary Lodi. And I didn't want to look like I couldn't dribble a ball. And when you told the story about your dad climbing the pole, it just reminded me of when we were with a bunch of kids and we went to a school and it was locked, the gate was locked, and you said, let's jump it. And I just looked and go, I don't think we could do that, but I didn't want to act like that. I want to be cool in front of Mary Lodi. Mary Lodi said, jump the fence, we're going to do it. So I was just, I want to be cool in front of Mary Lodi. So to me, your name is synonymous with daring and excellence and family. And sense of humor. My God, where do you get it? I mean, it's so apparent. But it's an honor to be in the same room with you and to be able to name that field after you. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an honor to hear all this and hear it shared from not just family but also community, and that your investment in our community, being from here and your family being a part of that's priceless. Like that's what we hope for in our community, right? And that's what we strive for. And so I'm honored that you're able to see this and that we're able to be part of that. And as a teacher as well, to see that and to hear these kind of things down the road, we hope to hear those things and successes and the investment of our time and energy, and that it brings about that kind of change and that kind of impact. Yeah, thank you for your work, and hopefully we can match that with dedication.
I don't know you very well, but I have known your daughter in quite a small period of time, and if you are half the person that she is, I can't imagine how it is at the Christmas ceremonies. So maybe one day I can get invited. But thank you for being a therapist, a father figure, an uncle, a family member to all the students through the year in the community, and inspiring, young people and to be wonderful human beings, to do great things, and that's what I believe like all our teachers and staff is about. So again, thank you so much for all that you have done, and we are truly grateful. So thank you.
Yes, and just to echo my colleagues, like great societies and great communities are built through the hands and hearts of fantastic teachers. And so, we can probably fill I don't know how many fields with countless number of people you touched, hearing the story in the back. Those type of things ripple out. I think that he has the empathy now to understand who his father truly was because you helped open his heart. And so how many people can tell that same story? And that's how we build fantastic communities, when somebody reaches in and shows, a loving hand of care to students, especially students who haven't had that at home. So it's the least we can do to name this field after you, after all the work that you've done in our district. And one of the greatest gifts that I enjoy constantly is your daughter, Doreen. Doreen and I have a history. Before I became a board member, she was really one of the first JUHSD employees that I got to know really well, and we worked together on our first parcel tax campaign. And she's one of the reasons why I said I need to be invested in this district, because I could see the tremendous heart and the love that she had for the district and the students here. And so I can see where she's gotten that from. So thank you so much for the gift of Doreen to this district. She's a blessing that I'm thankful for every single day. So with that.
President Salahuddin,
yes.
I don't know if the vote officially closes the item, but I know Coach Lodi would like to say something. I don't know if it should be right before or right after the vote.
So I think we should vote to approve and then hear from you speak, if that's okay. Yeah, so can I get a motion?
Move to
Name the field at Terra Nova High School after Coach Bob Lodi, to rename it Coach Bob Lodi Field.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Congratulations.
You wouldn't mind, I have a few things.
No problem.
I'd like to, there's a lot of nepotism here.
Oh, now I see we're doing good. She learns from the master. Right.
I did write a few notes here, so if you don't mind, but they do come from the heart. So if I have to refer to my notes, why, that's just the way it is. I can't remember everything anymore. First, I'd like to thank everyone involved in designating this award. I'm both honored and humbled by this gesture. It's a great culmination to my career. I consider myself quite fortunate to be standing here tonight. Secondly, I would like to express my gratitude to all who helped me in this journey. It's been quite a journey. There's not enough time to name all the people individually, so I'd like to condense it, and I'm going to use a couple of metaphors to extol the people that helped me through the years. The first metaphor is, it takes a village, and it really takes a village to be a football coach, particularly in high school. You need all the support you can get, and I did have a wonderful village. In this village, of course, was my wonderful family. I promised I wasn't going to cry, but then Will set me off. But my wonderful family and close friends who have supported me and encouraged me in victory and defeat, they were there. And as you know, my family is quite large, so that's a lot of support. Also in this village were the parents and the boosters who generously gave their time and effort to foster this program. And of course, they entrusted their little boys to my mentoring. Next in the village, who helped me tremendously with their expertise, hard work, and loyalty, were the coaches. The coaches who mentored me early in my career, the coaches who coached at my side, and the coaches that came before me and after me that nurtured the program at Terra Nova. Everybody is indispensable in this situation. The last group in this village consisted of hundreds of wonderful, talented, dedicated, and hardworking young men who defined this program. Without that, none of this happens. And I applaud them all. This was quite a village. To have your back couldn't be any better. In closing, I would like to use another metaphor that expresses my gratitude and good fortune, and also defines my life as a proud parent and coach. This metaphor is, you play the hand that is dealt you. This is true in life, and particularly in coaching. You're dealt that hand, you better make the best of it. Well, in my case, because of you, my family and friends, because of the parents and the boosters, because of the coaches, because of you, great young men who gallantly stood at my side, because of all of you, I was dealt the best hand of all. Thank you all.
Let's adjourn this meeting.
So, we are going to now move into district business that has to do a lot of data. I know it's fascinating, but if you would like to leave right now. That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Excited for that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What's that baby doing? Willie? They all look alike. So you can tell the brothers and the sisters are. All right. Nothing clears it out like the dashboard, so we're gonna move right on in to item 14A1 of the California dashboard. Ms. Parker.
Data does.
Yeah.
Try as well.
Wow, you did go there.
Good evening, President Todd, members of the board.
Yes.
This evening, I will be going over the California School Dashboard results, focusing on the state indicators. And I'll also be going over the college going rate of students using the National Student Clearinghouse data. So again, the purpose of tonight's presentation is just to inform the public and the Board of Trustees a high-level data of the dashboard. For the agenda, I'll be going over the overview or just general information about the dashboard, the results for the district, the college going information again through National Student Clearinghouse, and the support status from the state and federal level. So the dashboard is a friendly webpage designed really for parents so that they can see how we are doing based on the state and local indicators. For the state indicators, please note that there are 5 performance levels, and it is defined by different colors. Red being the lowest, then followed by orange, yellow, green, and blue is the highest. And please note that the performance state is based on the results for the current year, which is actually 2019, and whether we improved, maintained, or declined. So the end size requirements, because we will look at some student groups today, for a student group to count and have a performance level or a color, there has to be at least 30 students in the current year and the prior year. The only exception is for the homeless students and foster youth. They have to have at least 15 students in order to count and have a performance level. So back in November, we talked about the local indicators, and it's listed up here. And those local indicators, the data was collected and submitted by us, and we met all of those indicators. Tonight, I'll be talking about 5 indicators, and these indicators are from various data collected through CalPADS, our student information system, College Board, and so on and so forth. Tonight, I'll be talking about the academics, the English learner progress, graduation rate, suspension, and college and career indicator. Chronic absenteeism is not one of the indicators for high school, not just yet. So I'll start with the academic indicator, and this is measured using the Smarter Balance assessment in English, language arts, and math. And please note that only our 11th grade students took this assessment. So the academic indicator is based on the average student distance from the lowest possible score of the standard met area in both ELA and math. And note that we lose points if we don't meet the participation rate of 95%. So we lose 0.25 points for every percentage lower than 95%. These are our results for English language arts and math. So as you can see, we are both in yellow for both English and math. For English, we're at 7.6 points above the standard, but we declined by 1.3 points. And right at the bottom are the different colors. NA means no student groups received that color. And so Asian received a green, Filipino, 2 or more, and white received a performance level of yellow. Hispanic, SED stands for socioeconomically disadvantaged, and SWD is students with disabilities, and they receive an orange. Our English learners receive a red in that color. For the LCAP, they count as performance gap if the subgroups score 2 or more levels below than the level of all students. So from here, you can see that all students scored a yellow. So with English learners will be considered a subgroup with a performance gap. For math, we scored 52.7 points below the standard, and we declined by 6.7 points. And again, Asian scored in the blue category, nobody in the green, Filipino 2 or more, and white in the yellow, socioeconomically disadvantaged in orange, and EL, Hispanic, and students with disabilities in red. For the English learner progress indicator, this is measured using the LPAC, or English Language Proficiency Assessments for California. And this is the second year that we had taken the assessment, and that's one of the reasons why we don't have a color. Next year, we will get the color. However, this year we got a status, and our status is 45.1% of our English learners are progressing, meaning they're moving up a level from the previous year. If you look at the criteria for the different performance level, 45.1% actually meets the medium level, but if you look at this, it says we got low. And the reason why we got low is because if we don't meet the 95% participation rate, we automatically get a low status for the English progress indicator. And our participation rate last year was 94.3%. And Ms. Robinson and our team are working so hard right now in making sure that we catch all of our students, because it was pretty devastating to see that, we just missed it by that point. Graduation rate. What's new this year is that they combined the 4-year and the 5-year graduation rate. So students that graduate after 5 years also count towards this indicator. Just for your information, students who are not considered graduates are students who receive a special education students who receive certificate of completion, students who receive the adult high school diploma, students who receive the GED, HiSET, or TASC, and also if a student, and even if they pass the high school proficiency exam, they're not counted as a graduate because it does not meet the federal definition of what a graduate is.
So clarification for this. So how are you a 5th-year student? The only way is through summer school?
A 5th-year student, we just re-enroll them the 5th year, and in Synergy we tag them as returning.
Okay, so they're saying so they're trying to get us to just re-enroll kids for another year, because all the other ways, like adult school, it surprised me, was invalid.
So it's outside of, it has to be within our our school, JUHSD, outside of the adult schools. Adult school will not count, so they have to be if they're a Westmore, returning at one of our schools as a 2nd year taking, being a 12th grader. So this actually really applies. We have quite a few English learner students who need an extra year to meet their graduation requirements. So they will now count towards our graduation rate. Okay. Yes?
So on the left, those don't count in the denominator or the numerator, or do they?
They will count towards our denominator.
What are we counting? I know we reviewed this last time. They're still saying that students with special education needs who are on track from day one to their graduation or their certificate of completion when they walk, they're still being counted against districts. I have a question, but I'll save it for later. Thank you.
So again, who counts in the denominator? Students in the current 4-year graduation cohort, and if they drop out during the last 4-year period, they will be counted in the denominator. If they transferred into a school during the last 4-year period, they will be part of the denominator. Lost transfers is if we cannot find them in the system, or the CalFCD can't find them in CalPads, they will be count towards our denominator. Even early grads count as in our denominator, and students that transfer into an adult program or community college. And so that is part of the denominator. So our results, last year for graduation rate, I know last year was a really surprise because we actually went down from green to an orange. And one of the reasons that happened is because, again, they tweaked the definition of who is a graduate. That's one reason. And another reason was we had some data entry errors that were corrected this year. So this year, our graduation rate went up, and we're at 88.2%, and we're now in yellow. Okay. And these are the subgroups and how they perform. Nobody in the blue, Asian, Filipino, 2 or more, socioeconomically disadvantaged in green, Hispanic in yellow, English learners in white and orange, and homeless and students with disabilities in red. Suspension rate, one of the changes for this year is now they will count an aggregate suspension of 1 full day. That only means that if a student is suspended for a period, it will not count. It has to add up to 1 full day. So a student could be suspended for 1 period today, 1 period tomorrow, 1 period, and it will not count until it adds up to a whole full day. And students who are suspended multiple times are only counted once. So what is a suspension? What is included in suspension? It is for in-school and out-of-school suspension, and they note that in-school suspensions are when the principal or principal's designee assigns a student to a supervised suspension classroom, and that is tagged in our student information system if they have in-school suspension. Again, who receives this indicator? Districts that have 30 or more students enrolled for at least 1 day anytime within the whole entire school year. So they count every single person, even if a person is only enrolled in our district for 1 day. They will count that towards our denominator. And this is the result for our suspension. We received a green overall for all of our students. We don't have anybody in the blue, but Asian, Filipinos, and white received a green. Designation, English learner, Hispanic, 2 or more, socioeconomically disadvantaged, students with disabilities in yellow, African American, homeless, and Pacific Islander in orange, and nobody, no subgroups in red. For college and career indicator, this is the percentage of students who are deemed as prepared according to many different ways or pathways. And again, to meet this indicator, you have to be a high school graduate plus the indicators that I will be going over. One pathway is the A through G rate plus. So A through G are the courses required to meet the UC and CSU eligibility, and the students need to receive at least a grade of C- or better. And I added plus because not only do students have to meet the A through G, they either have to also get a 3 or 2 on a Smarter Balance summative assessment in ELA and math, or a semester of a college course or a score of 3 on one of the AP exams, or completion of CTE pathway. So A through G, again, is not enough. There's other criteria that they have to meet as well. Complicated. CTE pathway plus. So these are students that take 2 years of our CTE classes with us, and they have to get at least a C- or better. And again, I added plus because that's not enough. They also have to either get the right score on the Smarter Balance assessment or take a college course, a semester, not 2 semesters. Smarter Balance is another way to meet this indicator. The student has to have at least a 3, both on English language arts and math. For advanced placement, students have to score at least a 3 on 2 AP exams. For college course, this could be dual enrollment, which are classes that they take during the day. They need at least 2 semesters or 3/4 of a college coursework with a grade of C- or better. So not only the dual enrollment classes count, but also our concurrent enrollment classes where when the students take it after school or in the summer at a community college or any accredited college. And finally, the state seal of biliteracy. So this means that they had met the standard Smarter Balance assessment score, plus there are other criteria where they have to take either a foreign language for 4 years, or pass an AP exam, or get a certain score on the SAT subject requirement. And right now, there are other 2 criteria that doesn't apply to us, which is the military science, which is kind of like an ROTC type class, and also an IB class, because we don't offer those. So based on all of that information, overall, all of our students are in the yellow. 44.8% of our students are deemed prepared, and 2 or more students in socioeconomically disadvantaged received a green, Asian and Filipino yellow, English learner, Hispanic, homeless, and students with disabilities in orange, and nobody in the red. Of the 44.8% of the students that met this criteria, I had broken down how they met the criteria. So just know that a student can meet multiple criteria, and that's why it will not add up to the 44.8% or the 494. So as you can see, overall, most of our students met it through the A through G pathway, 71.1% through Smarter Balance, 33.8% through AP exams, 10.5% through college courses, 7.5% through CTE Pathway Plus, and 4.3% through State Seal of Biliteracy. College going information. So again, this is what the state defines as who is prepared for college and career. We took it the next level, and we actually looked at the students and their enrollment in actual, colleges and universities. So this information is through the National Student Clearinghouse, and we only have 2 years of data, the class of 2018 and class of 2019. And based on this data, 72% of our students in 2018 and 73% of our students in 2019 were actually enrolled in a college. This chart shows you, it's broken down by public or private institution. As you can see, most of our students attend public institutions. Only 4% or so attend private institution. This one breaks it down by a 4-year or 2-year college, and as you can see, the data is pretty much the same. 47% in the 4-year institution, and then about 25 in a 2-year institution. This data right here shows it's the data after the first 2 years of college. So National Student Clearinghouse will track students that enter after, not only after the first year, but after the 2nd year and the 3rd year. So this data shows that in class of 2018, as I mentioned, we started with 72%. Now we have 78% of our students ended up attending a college and is verified. These are the top colleges for both years, class of 2018 and 2019. As you can see, most of our students attend Skyline College, and followed by City College of San Francisco, which our counselors were a little surprised that to see that number. And so they, had decided like we really need to promote more. Our students are going to City College of San Francisco. We need to develop the same partnership as we have with Skyline College. And again, it lists our top colleges up here. I also look at the students who withdrew after the first year for the class of 2018. And as you can see this, out of 1,000 or so students, only 8 students dropped out after the first year. And those are the colleges that they dropped out of. I also saw that after 1 year, we had some students who actually received a certificate or an associate's degree. So we have 5 students after the first year who either got a direct transfer agreement, a 4-year college, an associate arts and transfer, and 3 career certificates. And I thought that this is very interesting that, the EMT program is quite popular. So it might be something that we can work with Skyline and have some kind of agreement for dual enrollment.
Looks like that's what they're already doing.
We don't have an EMT pathway right now.
But for the top 2, like, are they taking? You don't have to answer now, but when I saw it, I was thinking that I see a lot of high school kids in the summer at Skyline taking classes, so I'm assuming that. Yeah.
It started earlier. And the dual enrollment classes that they're taking right now will actually count towards, the transfer.
Right.
It's really awesome. As far as the support status, so again, we get a system of support from the state level and the federal level. I'll start out with the state level, and it's called differentiated assistance. And to be eligible, the same student group must receive a RED in at least 2 different priority areas. So last year, we had 2 subgroups, our students with disabilities and English learners who qualified for this. And they're in the areas of academics, graduation rate, suspension, college, career for our students with IEPs, and then academics, graduation rate, and suspension for English learners. This year, we are in year 2. However, only our students with disabilities are eligible, and they qualified just with the academics and the graduation rate, meaning that they met the college and career and the suspension as well.
Ms. Baca, can you explain a little more what differentiated assistance is and what does that look like?
So differentiated assistance is when the county office meets with a team of us, and we need to develop a plan on how we would address the needs of our students. On the federal level, there's a lot of acronyms here. There's CSI, TSI, and ATSI. So there's comprehensive support and improvement, targeted support and improvement, and additional targeted support and improvement. For CSI, there's 2 qualifiers. Either a low graduation rate, which means that 67% is the graduation rate or lower average over 2 years. And the other way to qualify is the lowest 5% of Title I schools, and they have to meet either one of these categories. Either schools with all red indicators, school with red but 1, so there's all of sorts of combination where you can qualify for a CSI. And again, for CSI, they're looking at all students, not subgroups. For TSI, they're looking at student groups. And the criteria is basically the same as at the bottom right here, the schools with all of the indicators. And to qualify for TSI, you have to have at least 2 consecutive years not meeting the same criteria. Okay? And right now, we don't have, in the state, nobody is qualified for the TSI because we're just in, our 2nd year. However, ATSI is very similar, same criteria as TSI, but the difference between this is that they qualify once every 3 years, and it's pretty much the same thing. People who do not meet the ATSI this year will be in the TSI, but the criteria is very, very similar. Last year, Westmore is identified as ATSI for students with disabilities, and they exited this year. However, Thornton is identified as CSI for their graduation rate. So if we look back, it says 67%. I believe Thornton's graduation rate is 66.7.
Okay.
However, CSI is tied with funding. So by the end of this month, I will be submitting an application to the state of California, and we will most likely qualify to receive some funding to help with Thornton High School. And then next steps again, we really need truly to protect our collaboration time so that we can really evaluate and look at this data, share best practices at all of our school sites district-wide. We need to monitor student progress regularly throughout the year. And with student progress, not just in all of the students, we really need to dig deep into the data and look at the story behind each one of this data, and again, just have that conversation. We need to continue the equity work district-wide, continue training on Tier 1 instruction, and it's very important that we are intentional with the placement of our at-promise students, or their new term for at-risk. So we really need to make sure that they're given the access and opportunity to be successful in these classes. That's about it. Thank you.
All right, opening it up for questions, comments.
A lot of good information, Ms. Batra. Appreciate the depth of this, but as I think some of the emails that we shared previously, I know we want to really look at the various subgroups at a much more in-depth level. Thank you for the email response on one of them where you sort of broke down some additional data, at least initially, but I think that looking at especially the college-going data, seeing that on, different, broken out by the different subgroups. And really, to be frank, just every single slide, we really want to see how it looks, not just at the district level, but each individual school level, and really keep drilling down so we can sort of find some of the causes. I was struck by some of the conversations we had during the entry network about this sort of thing, and I think this is the type of practice we as a board need to be doing. And so I'm certainly open for a future study session to be able to dig deeper, for sure.
Yeah, just to echo some of that, looking at different subgroups, and we've seen presentations, right, before, not just yours, but others, and I think, those details, there are larger conversations, but it's always good to see reported. However, this is an instrument, a statewide instrument, right, so it's not going to catch all those things, and some of those things are intentional, some of those things are the state needing to catch up on. Maybe fine-tuning where the accuracy in their measures are, and I know Dashboard's undergone some changes, so. Yeah, thank you for digging through all that data and presenting it in this fashion. The graduation rate, I think, is an important thing to look at in terms of where it does help us see we're missing some things, and where this graduation rate doesn't match up, maybe one that's more accurate. When we think about adult education, special education, with certificates of completion, and we have high school, we have GED, those who passed the high school proficiency exam. Those are things that I think traditionally may not be considered. They might be considered those are just high school dropouts, right? Which carries all the stigma, and I think adversity that we're trying to break in terms of restorative justice and recognizing, acknowledging our students' achievements in our community. But at the very least, as a teacher in special education, that the state still does not consider a certificate of completion or just considers it something that's not worthy of graduation is shocking, but not surprising at some level. So looking forward to us being able to clarify where we are and where our goals are. I guess my only question, I like the analysis of my data. I feel like it was very clear and kind of showing where we are and what we want to do. Where are we? So the CSI, TSI, and ATSI, those reflect to me the MTSS process, right? We have like tier 1, 2, and 3 students. Are these areas aligned with the kind of work we're doing? Maybe this is a question for both the superintendent and you. So are these aligned to the kind of goals we have ongoing within the district? I want to say like exactly aligned in terms of rubrics, but like are they generally aligned along the lines of what we're already doing, or are these measurements like grossly off of where we're measuring, where we need to improve? Like the 67% threshold that you just mentioned for, what was it? The graduation rate at Thornton, right? And for students with disabilities where they're at, areas in red and whatnot, like it's cool to make sure we can support for that from the state if that's what a targeted goal is, including funding. But are those aligned?
So those are the 3 ways at the federal level that replace No Child Left Behind for program improvements. Remember, we used to talk about PI. There was PI at the state level and PI at the federal level. So these are 3 ways that the federal government comes in and helps you improve. And so it's just differentiated based on whether it's whole group, small group. But it is aligned to our state accountability system.
On the LCAP, I would have to create a plan and embed that on how we would support Thornton, because they're identified as comprehensive support and improvement, and what we do in the LCAP, the actions and services, are aligned to what we're trying to accomplish, which is increase graduation rate.
I mean, this is my follow-up question is, are the margins in terms of the numbers, percentages, are they closely in line to what we have looked at in the past or ongoing in our district?
Well, one of the things that's different under Every Student Succeeds, under No Child Behind in previous programs, the only way you got into a federal program improvement is with your Title I schools and your Title I students. Thornton's not a Title I school, so this applies to all schools in the district. So that's one change. But there, the state sets their levels for program improvement and the feds set their levels. So they're not the same, because one is the dashboard and these are just a target.
Not much to say except that I am a product of Skyline College myself, so definitely appreciate the partnership that we have with them, and definitely would love to see the continued partnership with them, along with obviously City College and CSM as well. So I appreciate the fact that it's kind of like not a stigma that you can go to community college and you can still transfer or still be just as successful if you don't go straight to a 4-year college. So the only thing is it's Thornton, the graduation rate declining, or is it kind of pretty much?
Pretty much the same.
The same.
But what we really need to look at, because right now Thornton, there are other students in programs like in TDS, which is part of their cohort, that I know that we're trying to see if the students could be part of their actual home school instead of Thornton, because the 66.7% doesn't really reflect just Thornton students, it has other programs.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, okay.
Yeah, they really should be assigned to their
where they're part of
a school of attendance, or what they selected in their freshman year. We need to fix that.
Which school they're coming from. We're thinking, that should be a part of their.
How do you fix that?
Through synergy and HALPADs and making sure that we are, even though that they are in a separate setting, we need to make sure that for accountability, they count towards the other school site.
That was a strategy done by a lot of districts back in the 2000s, when everyone thought the continuation schools were we're always going to be in program improvement anyway. So that was a strategy by a lot of districts to put other programs, link them to the continuation school. And we just haven't done that. We need to do that here.
Really good information. Yeah, I'm looking forward to our study session. Dig deeper. As far as the CASP, I know that God, we're so close, and even our own student trustees here were saying they didn't care because it's not important. How do we message the importance of it?
I know that we had spoken with our vice principals and principals to really promote the importance of it because it's actually one of the measures that they can use instead of, taking a summer bridge class through San Francisco State, that they can use this for their placement so that they're not in the remedial courses when they get into the state colleges. And we also just really need to, solicit our students' help too as to why this is important. We need to perhaps correlate how, this is just as important as the SAT or the PSAT. And again, most of it could be leveraged using the placement criteria for the community college and the CSU.
There's been a lot of research done on this, and the number one factor affecting whether students care about a test or not is their classroom teacher. So it's all about it's back to relationships again and a classroom culture. So I don't know that their brains aren't developed. So thinking in terms of this might matter in 2 years, a lot of kids don't even care about the PSAT and the SAT. But what does matter is if I have a relationship with my math or English teacher and the teacher has really been doing a really good job of helping me be successful, no matter what test that's put in front of me, I'm going to want to do well on that because of the relationship I have with that classroom teacher. So that's really the best way to motivate students. Some of this other stuff just isn't going to matter to most kids.
I don't know if it matters that much to me, to be quite honest. I mean, is it important for them to do well on this test? I don't know if it is. The dashboard was supposed to be created to make this simpler for parents to understand how a school is performing, and this is insane. Like, they keep throwing more and more stuff in here to where the CTE requirement, who is going to understand that? Like, that is bonkers. I mean, it's a calculus problem to figure out exactly what each indicator means that are the top two. I mean, the other ones are pretty straightforward, but then they get all folded into the one meter, and some of these don't have anything to do with the others. So that the fact that they're all put in here, to me, is kind of insane, and it's making me as a board member really feel like, how much resources and effort do we put into trying to improve these meters when they don't even make sense in terms of how you run or manage a school?
And I would say, and I said it when we met with the county for our differentiated assistance meeting, it doesn't really matter what plan we have if you don't help us get qualified teachers to be in our classroom.
True.
Right. Want to see improvement? I don't care what metric you want to use.
Exactly.
Let's pay our staff what they're deserved. Let's get more people into the teacher education program. Let's put teachers in classrooms.
Right. And this is not devaluing some of the indicators. Like, of course, there's some indicators like suspensions and graduation rates that we definitely need to be looking at and doing what we can in A to G rates on their own, but this combined stuff, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to calm down. This is not.
You're not alone nationwide. You're not alone nationwide.
This is unbelievable.
No, it took a while to sort through and understand what it was I was looking at. So.
And if this is an indicator of growth, like a true indicator of growth, taking points off because, whatever percent didn't take the test, like, that doesn't even make any sense to me either. If it's really just supposed to be about truly seeing if a school is making a progress, it wouldn't matter if it was a 30% sampling versus an 80% sampling, like that, it would still be enough students to generate information about progress and an indication on how we're doing. So is this more about, making, I would be interested to see, which lobbyist was responsible for that number so that we have to buy a certain amount of tests. Like, I'm not here to ensure that certain companies make money. Like, that is not my job. And so I'm taking this with a grain of salt. I am still like, the SAT and the PSAT for me is kind of,
more important, relevant.
to me, it's going to be a little bit more relevant to like the decision-making process. And again, this is not devaluing everything in here. I think this is good and valuable information to have, but I think it needs to be put in its place. And then before we make any funding decisions, really looking at our own assessments that our own teachers create, as well as the SAT, which the students actually have said that they care about. And I've also talked about like the math test on here, that we teach them how to do math one way, and then they're forced to do math in a completely different way on the computer, so it's not an accurate representation. So there's so many issues here that, again, the point I'm trying to make is that I want to get other indicators before we make any sort of decisions on new directions for the district. And I agree with your recommendations, but I think that's just in general with everything else going on, those make sense. But and we're gonna do what we have to do in order to not be like, all these letters, but again, I think those things that we have to do should be making sure that they're more in line with the direction that we want to go and not the direction that all of these things are trying to pull us into, that I think is moving us away from the core essence of why we're here in the first place. So, Karina, I am so sorry that you have to, I can't even imagine wading through all of this. And again, the constant changing of the LCAP and the dashboard. Mm-hmm. Right, and I know, and I heard it's changing again, and there's just some things that you just can't legislate, and I know, this is kind of an example of that, so thank you for all your work in pulling this in tremendous amount of data together to present to us today. I know it was not an easy feat, so thank you very much.
And to an understanding presentation. Appreciate that very much.
One other quick question. Going back just to the list of schools that students are enrolled in, is this list based on just the 2019, or is this both years of 2018?
It's both. They add both the 2018 and the 2019.
Okay. And so long term, over time, we'll see also Styling grads, for example, moving on to a 4-year school and seeing that they are exiting that program, graduating that program, that type of thing, right? So this is actually, I think, over the next couple of years, this is going to become even more critical data just from, in terms of the schools.
This is helpful data.
Absolutely,
Yeah, that is.
absolutely.
Right.
It tells us where our kids are
And
enrolling.
there's data that we pull, right? It's not coming
Yeah,
from-
exactly.
And
Right.
again, that data point I think will be will be extremely valuable in terms of marketing.
Yes.
Because SHATSTA employs sort of, they're really good at tweaking the data, right? And they're really good at tweaking the data so that it shows them in the best light. But I think that this is one area to where we don't talk about it enough, but we're probably, if we compare it, are doing better than them with students, not percentage of students that are accepted to college that stay. And that I think we do a much better job of preparing students to be successful in a 2 or 4 year than they are currently doing, and I think that that is a much more impressive marketing piece to parents than you get in, but then you drop out in a year or two. So I'm glad that we're collecting this data, and I hope we continue doing this moving forward. So thank you.
There's over 100 students that are in UC.
Right.
That's really fantastic. So.
Anything else on this point?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item 15A, certificated hiring incentives, and I think we're tossing it over to you.
Yes, so I'm going to do the HR item. So
Okay.
this is, as you know, last year and the year before, we were offering signing bonuses. So staff is recommending that we continue this practice in those high need areas for the 2021 year. And the item explains the $5,000. We divvy it up over 3 payments. And it's for our hard-to-fill positions in special education, math, science, and world language.
Any questions?
How many did we give last this school year?
I don't know.
I don't have that on, but I can put it in the weekly update. It was, I mean, we hired like 7 special ed teachers alone. So
I think that really contributed to, like,
yeah, I think there was a good number of them. Math teachers, science teachers.
World language and
Yeah.
science teachers, so
I
we've
mean,
got
probably a dozen.
oh, that's pretty good, yeah.
Move to approve the certificated hiring incentives.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item.
So the next
Oh.
item is something that we do every year. I'll give you an example. So we needed a Spanish teacher at Westmore. There was someone who did student teaching under social studies and was getting a credential in history. We didn't have any history openings, but we did need a Spanish teacher at Westmore. And so this person, who happens to be Spanish speaking, she has her credential in one subject, but she's not credentialed for Spanish. So we oftentimes during the district, we have 10 or more positions district-wide where we have a need to fill a position with somebody who doesn't have the credential in it. They may be credentialed somewhere else. But if you don't approve this declaration of needs, we can't award those emergency permits. So when you hear people talking about a PIP or a STIP, that's what we're talking about here.
All right, any questions?
Can you explain that okay?
Yes.
Move to approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators 2019-2020.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on, public hearing and approval of, moving on to amendment number 1, the design build agreement between JUHSD and J.H. Fitzmaurice for the construction of the workforce housing, faculty and staff.
So as you probably remember, in September, the JUHSD board approved a contract with JHF for our design build services. And as we were going through the pre-construction process with them, as with many projects, the need to make an amendment has arisen out of that pre-construction work. So before the board tonight is an amendment that adds about $3.6 million in 87 days to the contract that was originally approved. The details of the specific items are in your board packets. Most of the increase comes from unforeseen conditions, unanticipated requirements that were unavoidable, like depths and locations of our existing utilities, water flow issues, and plumbing code compliance. Our director of construction, Stephanie, and our consultants at Brookwood worked really closely with JHF to make sure that the increases were necessary, unavoidable, or things that we desired, like the U-shaped kitchens, and that we were getting a fair price. So this final cost of the project would still be within the anticipated range and fits our financial modeling. So we're recommending that the board approve this amendment tonight.
Any questions? Oh, all right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to item 15T1, resolution recognizing the importance of the 2020 census. Dr. Deloria.
So Supervisor Canepa reached out to all superintendents in the county requesting that the board show its support for the importance of the census. So this is a resolution he's recommending that you support and take action on tonight.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm glad that we have this here. I think census cannot be overstated in terms of its importance and all the work and data that we're presenting is for our students and families in our community who can be documented. In this case, the census, for those who want to document it, it makes a big impact because it's one of the only measures that ensures federal attention, even if it's not taken action on in that sense. Locally, it makes a big impact, so everywhere. So yeah, glad to.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. The last item is the change in the board meeting calendar. Dr. Deloria.
So if you remember, we had a meeting scheduled for February 25th. We don't have enough board members for quorum that day, so we talked about the 24th. But then I discovered on Monday that there's a San Mateo California School Boards Association meeting at 6 o'clock. Part of that presentation is on tiered services, MTSS. So I don't think February 24th is going to work either, because I think many of us are probably going to try to attend that meeting. I talked with my team, and we're wondering if maybe we should just cancel the meeting. There's the one item that was time sensitive. I talked with Doreen, and we could actually, if we can find a time to do a consent only, we could have you could approve the safety plans as long as they get approved before March 1st. So that's something for you to consider, instead of trying to find another date, because our meeting in March is March 10th.
I'm fine with that, and I'm available for a consent meeting pretty much any time.
We can do that at 7 a.m. So you would need to take action to cancel the February 25th meeting. Then we'll make that notation on our website and in our board calendar, those things. And then if you can respond when Ms. Bell sends out possible dates for consent only, so we can get those safety plans and any personnel issues approved by you.
Will it be the soonest that you can do? I mean, well, I would be available I think it's very soon, but I would be available this.
I don't think it's going to be this week.
Okay.
The next week is break, so it's probably going to be sometime the last week of February.
Okay. Move to cancel the February 25th regular board meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consideration of future agenda items. We do need to add the agenda to the CSBA Delegate Assembly vote. So we'll add that on there. Any other future agenda items for consideration? The other thing is we can add for the calendar in the March meeting for closed session for further discussion for Superintendent Wiley.
Well, I think, do we want to, probably discuss a future study session to go deeper into some of this data?
Is that going to be at the LCAP? Yeah.
They might fit in the same umbrella.
Yeah, to have a deeper dive into some of the pooling and cross-referencing data at LCAP, would that be okay?
Yes, but it's going to be a long day.
It's going to be a long day. Oh, LCAP's already going to be a long day, you're saying?
Because we have the budget to.
Oh, budget work study.
It was going to be a budget LCAP meeting.
I see.
So if we add data too, that might be pretty long, but.
That's April 18th. Do you want to really wait that long? No. So April 18th is our Saturday retreat where we'll be looking at LCAP and budget.
Okay. I mean, because normally we just do a half day for a retreat, but we could do longer than a half day.
I'm got nothing else that day. I'm good.
Yeah, because I think it would be good to get some.
And are you available for the day on April 18th?
All right.
That gives you plenty of time, Queen, to
pull the. We're there already, so. Right. We always take over for our budget. We already have our budget LCAP work study, so we're just going to extend it just to talk about that as well. And then I think that'll be a good time, because when is our next equity? When is the last equity task force? Oh, okay. Is it after the 18th? Oh, well, we can check. Okay. Cool.
Well, let's confirm, because we might have some scheduling.
okay.
You sure?
I mean,
It's on the calendar already, right?
yeah, it's on the calendar already. I'll have to find someone to pick up Carly from work.
Okay. All right. So before we adjourn, we are adjourning tonight's meeting in honor of two people. First is JUHSD CSIS Specialist Ananda Shiv's father-in-law, John Hall Shivs. Mr. Shivs passed away on Sunday, January 19th of this year. He was an electrician who learned his craft while he was enlisted in the United States Air Force. He was married to his wife Sheila for 60 years and had 3 sons and 6 grandchildren. He loved riding his dirt bike, working on old cars, but mostly spending time with his family. Also, JUHSD employee Carla Tuckloff, Thornton High School wellness counselor's mother, passed away, Josefina Eugenio. She passed away on January 22nd of this year. We, the board, send our thoughts and condolences to both of these families and their host of friends and loved ones. So with that, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Okay, well, we can
We'll do it next one anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Marie goes on.